Alright, I want to show you some tricks on typing your lab reports in Microsoft Word. This one is for the Word version 2007, but it also applies to a lot of the older versions, maybe even closer line than Excel does, where some of the features are located and stuff. The first thing I'd like to show you is subscript versus superscript. Let's say you're going to type in a chemical formula. They often have subscripts in them. So let's go with copper nitrate. Formula is going to be CuNO3. If you just leave it like this, your 3's get confused with an actual like 3 times or something like that. We want to make this 3 what's called subscript, sub meaning below the line. So here's how I could go ahead and do that. Once I've typed it in, I could just go back with my cursor and highlight it like this. And you'll notice there's a button up here with an X to the bottom. That means subscript. I could right click on this, go to font, and click subscript, and that'll put it below. The other thing that you can do, if you can remember this shortcut, it actually goes much quicker, is, okay, I'm going to type in CuNO3, so here's what I'm going to do. CuNO, time to type in the 3. In Microsoft Word, if I hold down Control and equals, you'll notice maybe the cursor got a little bit smaller, and I can press the 3, and now I put in the subscript. And if I hold Control equals, I can type like normal again. The other thing that you may need to use from time to time is what's called a superscript. It's the same idea, only super meaning above the words. So let's just say I wanted to type in cubic centimeters. So instead of the old CM3, CM3. Okay, instead what I would do is I would type in CM, and then instead of me typing the 3, now I'm going to hold down Control Shift equals 3. It makes it a superscript. Word likes to capitalize the C. I'm just going to go back and put it in a lowercase. And now I want to go back to normal typing, so I can type in Control Shift equals again and continue typing as I would for my report. Again, just like subscript, superscript also has a button up here that you can use. And if I mouse over it, you'll notice it says Control Shift plus. Or the other thing I could have done is I can highlight anything I'd want, right click on it, and then go to font. And then I could also go to superscript, there it is, and make the stuff superscript. So there's several ways to do that. Alright, moving on. There are going to be several symbols in Word that you're going to need to use. Probably some of the most common ones. I'll pick 3 of the most common, but there are a bunch. So let's say we want to report uncertainty. Let's say we measure something and it's 1.0 plus or minus, let's say, half meters long. I measured the length. My ruler is not very good in this case. It's got an uncertainty of a half a meter. That'd be like the worst meter stick in the world. But let's just say that's what we have. This is kind of a bad way to type it in. I don't really understand what you mean here by plus minus. I've seen this, plus or minus. Whoops, someone got rid of the plus there. They type it in like this. Still, that's not really what we want to use. There's a symbol we can use that says 1.0 plus or minus 0.5 meters. So here, let me type it in from the beginning, show you how I would do this. 1.0, spacebar. You have a tab up here that says Insert. Click on Insert. There is a symbol way in the right corner. I'm going to left click on it. And there's actually a plus minus button. And I could just click on this right now and notice it puts in the plus minus sign. Let's say the symbol I'm looking for is not in this chart right here. I'm going to go to More Symbols. And now I have a bunch of symbols that I can choose from. I can scroll down, and I can go through, pick any of these symbols. I'm going to go a little faster now, that I may choose, that I might want. Here's some here with some eighths and some integrals if you're doing calculus, approximately equal to, not equal to, summation. There's a bunch hidden in there. If you can't find it here, sometimes you have to do some searching. There's a pull-down menu here to just select which font you want. And under the symbol font, I find that there are a lot of them as well, especially Greek letters. And I think there's another one, if you have this font on your computer. Let's see. I think it's called Euclid. Euclid symbol, Euclid Math 1, Euclid Math 2 will often have other symbols that you may be looking for that you can't find, at least as far as chemistry and math goes. Once you find a symbol that you used, and you use it quite often, it will store it down here in your recently used symbols. You can see the symbols that I've used quite a bit. The plus, the degree symbol, I use often. The approximately equal to. There's the division symbol if I want to actually type that out. Equilibrium arrows are often used. This dot one, you might think, what the heck do you use that for? Let me show you. Sometimes units are typed in this way. Instead of meters per second, like you might be used to seeing. Sometimes people type in meters, and then we got to go to the symbol thing. There's the dot that I'm going to use. And seconds, I'm going to use my superscript here to the -1 power. And those two things, I'll just space it so you can see a little better. This thing here, meters per second, also can be written as meters times seconds to the -1 power. So that's some of the symbols that you may encounter. Another important thing for chemistry is what's called the equation editor. I know there's an equation thing here, but I'm not a big fan of using that one in the new version of Word. So I go under Insert, Object. And if you notice the menu that comes up, there's something called Microsoft Equation. So I'm going to click on that. And up comes this box with a lot of stuff. This actually isn't that difficult to use, but it'll take you a little while to get used to it. Let's say I want to put in a formula, something like density equals mass divided by volume. I can just type in density, hit the equal sign, and mass divided by volume. Well, I have to put in like the fraction symbol. So I'm just going to left click here. Sometimes you have to search for what you want. I just happen to use it, so now I know where it is. I'm going to put in this fraction box here. And notice I can type in mass right here. And if I want to go to this box down below, I can just press the down key and type in volume. And when I click out of this box, now it has the equation. Sometimes the equation on the screen looks kind of weird, but when you print it out, it'll actually look normal. Let me show you how to put maybe in a little bit more complex of an equation. This one I'm going to purely make up. It has no sense whatsoever. So I'm going to put in Object, Microsoft Equation, and I'm just going to, let's say this was the equation for some reason you wanted to put in. If you try to type in mass and then put a space, you'll notice it doesn't let me do anything. So there's a couple ways you can fix that. If you go under Style, change it from math to text. And now when I type, I can, just like I'm typing in a word processor, I can space, I can do whatever I want. The shortcut key from changing style from math to text is a Control-Shift-E, but you can also always do it that way. Now that I have it in there, let's say I want mass. I'm going to look for the time symbol. I believe it's under here. Notice some of these symbols that I could put in. I'll just click on it. Another space. Mass times, I want the word temperature on top. And on the bottom, let's say I want to put maybe some parentheses in there. So I'm going to go and put my parentheses in. And let's see, I'll put in length. Oops, notice it's not in text again. It sometimes does that. So I'm going to have to go to Style and Text. And now I can type in length. And I'll put like plus height. And let's say I want to then put minus 50 for some reason of this whole quantity. So if I want to get out of here, just using the left arrow is fine. I can also use the tab key depending on what I want to do. Oops, I made a mistake. I don't want length. I meant to have width. So here's where my cursor is. Let's say when I get done, I can use the arrow keys and down keys, left and down key to get to length. Oh, I meant to type in width. So let's put that in. Now I want to go back to where it was. If I just hit tab enough times, eventually the cursor would go to this. And let's put minus 50 or something like that. And that's going to equal, I don't know, let's just call it a constant. Notice if you type in something like constant and it's under the math text, it's going to like try to find things like tan or sin for sine or whatever. And so, I didn't want that. I want to go back to the normal text style, and I can do that. And I can click out of here, and it also has it like this. And like I said, this might look weird when it's in Word, but when you actually print it out, it'll look quite normal. The last thing I want to show you is how to insert a table. This shouldn't be terribly difficult, but let's say I want a column. I figured out my table. I want it, 4 by 2. So I'll just sort of size this any way I want. I'll see. Let's go to 4 by 2 right here. Word sometimes makes some weird columns. If I want to shade it all, there's some different layouts you could do up here. I usually don't like messing with those things because when you print them in black and white, they look kind of weird. If I want everything to be centered, I'm going to go back to home. I'm just going to left click and hold, drag, and highlight these. Let's say I want them to be centered and bold. I click the centering button and the bold button here. And now anything I type in those columns is going to be centered and bold. And let's say I want these to everything else. I'm going to put in some numbers, and I want them to be what's called right justified. So the numbers on the right side. I'm just going to highlight them. And here's my right justified button. And I'll click on that. And let's say the number is 10.0. So that's one trick you can use in this table. Now, sometimes that space doesn't look, it looks kind of cramped if you put in numbers this way. It depends. You really have to take a look at your report. But let's say you want to add more room. Sometimes what you can do is just put your cursor in front of one of these and press enter. And then that will bring that down. Unfortunately, you would have to press enter in front of every one of these numbers. So just keep that in mind if that's something that you would like to do. If you get to this point and you're like, oh, shoot, I wish I would have added another row. Well, instead of deleting this and redoing the whole thing, notice my cursor's at the very end of the table. If I just hit the tab key, it'll add another row for me. And I hit tab, it moves the next one, next one. Oh, I wish I had another row. Hit tab, and it'll keep doing that. There are some things you can do with these cells. Geez, I wish I would have made these two separate columns. I wish I would have made them one. I can left click and highlight them. When they are highlighted, I could right click and notice there's something that says merge cells. I can merge them. Now it might get rid of my text or whatever, but I can at least do that. And it made it all one big cell. Maybe I want to, I'll undo that option here with Control Z. Maybe what I want to do is I want to take off some of the borders on here. So it's just all you see is the lines here. You don't see the horizontal lines. If I place my cursor, I'm just going to highlight these. Say the only lines I want are the top and the sides. So now they're highlighted. Notice there's this thing here. This is called the border box. I'm just going to hit this arrow to the side and show me all the options. Well, all I want is the right border and the top one on those. So I'm going to turn bottom border off. And I'm going to turn off left border. And it looks like I might have to do that with more than one. Maybe here I want to get rid of the top and bottom border. So I'm going to make sure that those get unchecked. And I could make this if I wanted to. It's a little bit tedious, but I could make this into maybe a little bit different of a table format. Of course, I would click out of the table if I want to do any more text. So those are just some of the options that might make typing in Word a little bit quicker and easier.